questions. Kind of going back through, history lane, we saw the big emergence of the ad agencies in the 40s and 50s, these big conglomerates that really did everything from soup to nuts, the days of the 3 martini lunches and everything. Then we saw the 80s emerge, and we saw a trend happen where there was this concept that, hey, we need to really separate the different practice areas, right? We want a creative shop that really excels at creative. We want a planning group that really excels at planning. And then we even saw the emergence of the buying specialist, right, which is, I think, some of Carat's legacy in the offline world. Does digital change that? Meaning that, is it really becoming too difficult to decouple the creative assembly and ideation of ads with the mechanical delivery of it? Or do you see this sort of separate planning, buying, and creative aspect continuing? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's critical that the creative and media are happening together and that those functions are joined at the hip. I don't know that it's necessarily because of digital. I think digital has amplified the need, but I think it's because of media consumption habits overall. To John's point earlier about, I'm on the web while I'm watching TV and I'm IMing and I'm talking on the phone, and people are just spreading their time so thin across channels, it's becoming much more complicated to reach them. And I think the more innovative and groundbreaking campaigns come from the people who understand the placements and the people who are ideating around the concepts, sitting together and cross-pollinating and coming up with really intriguing placements on their, together jointly. And I think Crispin's the master of doing this. Like, everything they've done for Burger King falls into this category. But the one I always think about is, and it's not even a digital example, but I think it illustrates the point well, is the whole Burger King "Have It Your Way" slogan. They did a very simple thing. They painted the bumpers in the parking spots of all the Burger King locations, and they had it say, head in or back in, have it your way, in the parking spots. It's a very simple thing, but it's very contextual and right on brand, and it was great. And that's people thinking about placement and creative and brand all together. And that doesn't happen when you have 2 isolated teams working on things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would, personally, I question whether it had ever made sense in the first place, to be perfectly honest. Again, I think the notion of digital doesn't change anything. It's imperative that those 2 work in conjunction, and so I think the original supposition that you've got to be separate to be superior, in my mind, never quite made sense. You have to try a little harder to get the 2 disciplines to be jointly superior in one agency, but in my mind, I think that is actually the model that makes the most sense. I mean, for the record, I missed those 3 martini lunches.
So I think if you're, the separation doesn't have to do, I think, with needing to be separate to be superior. And I absolutely agree that within digital, creative and media need to be in one place. But if you're looking at the overall landscape, I mean, Carat's heritage is as an independent media company, and it's not because having them separate makes it superior, but it gives you credibility, and it gives you the ability to be objective. And I think the reason that's important is if you were to look at Carat's client base relative to others, our clients probably spend a lot more money within digital and have been doing so for longer, and that's because we didn't make commercials. So that's what I think the separation was about. I don't think it's necessary anymore, but that's where it came from.
Let me ask you a tougher question now. I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you think Carat will ever get into the television creative business?
I do. I absolutely do. I don't know anything.
Well, you're a journalist in the room, I'll call your ad agent.
But I think, we've got clients now that we're doing video work for, and that work today lives on the web. And I think we're having conversations where clients want to take stuff that we're doing online and put it on television. So I think whether it's our aspiration to or not, the stuff that our guys are doing is going to be on TV.
At Media Context, we don't have creative capabilities within our within Media Context, but we're part of the Havas network and the Havas Media, which has partners such as Euro and Arnold, which are the creative shops, and we work really closely with them to make sure that the media and the creative is synced up. And in a situation like that, it works well to have these specialists, but it's critical to be able to communicate and to have a really intense level of communication. And I don't necessarily think it matters what your company name is, but what matters is how often you share results and how often you discuss what your objectives are, and you make sure that everyone's on the calls with the clients when you're talking about either creative development or the results for the program. And it's having that integrated approach that makes it successful, and not necessarily having different company names.
I think integration is crucial in digital. I think it's, as an example, today we presented a strategy that included a widget. It included some syndicated content, some content we were licensing, a photo contest on PhotoBucket, and some traditional digital. And so, is that media? Is it creative? And it almost doesn't matter. And it's hard to define some of those things rigidly, and we just want the best ideas. We actually, a year ago, restacked, which broke our hearts to not sit with media, because media was a very tight group, but we restacked 5 client teams. It sounds like it's sort of a manual way to make us integrate, but I can't tell you what a difference it makes to walk in and be sitting next to the creative lead for the client and the account planning lead, and you're immediately immersed in the client work. And when there's a new random thing that somebody finds, they can send it to you. And I just think that having that dialogue, because there isn't a clear definition anymore in digital of what is necessarily a media buy or a creative concept that would lead. We have, out of New York, there's a new group for us called Big Tent. They're doing production, just ground up production, video production for custom content we're creating. So when we're talking about distributing it, like, they have some ideas, we've got some ideas in media. Obviously the creative folks and the copywriters are involved, but it's a client team, and I think it's crucial. It's been crucial to our success, and I think it will continue to be so. Bill?
Yeah, just one final point. As a data point, we actually have both models existing inside the agency, so we actually get a chance to see them both operating side by side. There are campaigns for which we do our own creative, and there are other campaigns where we're partnered with agencies that our clients have selected. I think repetitively we see better results and more integrated stuff when we do it internally, but even in the best case scenarios where you do have a good working relationship with an additional creative agency, the best case scenario, even when you come up with work that is as good as you might produce with an integrated team internally, the efficiencies that are lost are pretty tremendous. It is a lot more work when you've got to try to coordinate that. So even just from an efficiency standpoint, there's a lot of lost revenue there.
Let's ask you, John. Do you care who buys your ads? As long as the creative control and the work is as glamorous as.
Where's Gina? No. Love you, doll. No, I do care, and actually what I find is interesting is, and the reason I hadn't spoken up on this is because other people had said the same thing. It's when an idea can come from anybody in an organization, and when creative is an adjective, not just the name of a department, and when, Gina or someone on a media team can approach myself or someone on the creative team inside of Mullen, regardless of whether they're a specialist in broadcast or print or digital, and that conversation sparks the idea, which sparks the really great platform around which an entire campaign is built. Yeah, I don't care where it comes from, and I don't care who buys it. I love having media people in the organization where I work, and honestly, I'm not sure I would know how to function if they weren't there. We may not speak on a day-to-day basis on certain things, but just the knowledge that's a part of that and the insight that they can provide is tremendous. And isolating a creative unit or even a media unit without the other half, I think it works from an efficiency level for some people who think that they're getting something better, but in the long run, I don't think they are.
Interesting. So we've almost unanimous here, which is this, split in the 80s was more of an interesting concept, but maybe doesn't have a lot of legs going forward. Anyone have any other comments or questions before we move on to the next question on this? So next question I want to bring up, a trend we've seen, really, this has been unprecedented. It's really only since digital, only in the last couple of years, have we seen the relationship between agencies and publishers get awfully cozy. I think we first saw that with